YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with Overreaction Monday here just after Sunday's action of NFL Week 12. We got a couple games left for this week. Follow us on Twitter. We'll be talking during those games. But Overreaction Monday, we do this every single Monday, taking a look at some statements sent in by you guys through our Twitter. So if you want to get involved, another reason to follow the Twitter. But we'll go through these, break them down, give you my thoughts. Instagram, podcast, Patreon, you guys know the drill. Those links are in the description and comments. Please help us out by checking them out. It'll be worth it to do that and to subscribe. Full NFL coverage. We got weekly picks, power rankings, score predictions. Schedule might be a little different this week because the Tuesday night game, if that happens. You see down underneath me here, the sided app. You can debate football, win Amazon gift cards. We have a page on there, and we're posting polls all the time. So if you come participate, that'd be pretty cool. Check it out. Link down below for that. I mentioned the Patreon, bunch of extra bonus content on there. A lot going on. A lot of you showing your support too, so appreciate that very much. But on to the Overreaction Monday episode here after Week 12, heading into Week 13. Tony Benz, the Bears need to go full offensive rebuild and miss out on draft picks for Allen Robinson. And they missed out on draft picks for Allen Robinson, he says. Yeah, I kind of been talking about this. They definitely need to rebuild that offense. They may need to trade some defensive pieces to do so because it's an offensive league. Their defense is ready to win now, but is it still going to be there when the offense is finally kind of getting going? There's so much missing from that offense that it's going to take some time. It's not going to take one off season. It might not take two off seasons. So. I think they need to be willing to, trade, defense pieces or whatever they need to. And they did miss out on trading. They did miss out on draft picks by not trading Allen Robinson. I talked about this at the trade deadline. I felt that they were either going to get a good amount now or we're only going to end up with a 2022 compensatory pick if they lose him in free agency. So, I think I'm actually going to call this all facts. I think the offense, there's really not going into rebuild mode, though, for offense. It's kind of already by default there, because they don't really have, there's pieces I like. I mean, Al Robinson's going to be a free agent. I like Darnell Mooney. I liked him pre-draft process, but is that like a key factor piece? I like Tariq Cohen, but they don't have any takeover guys. They got pieces that I like, but they need everything on offense. They need everything, including a quarterback. So that kind of means you're in rebuild mode already for offense. And, yeah, I talked about it that they probably should have traded Allen Robinson. So I think this is all a fact, honestly. I don't think it's any secret that their offense is extremely disappointing. So that's an interesting one, though. Early in the year, Bears thinking playoffs. They still can make the playoffs, but now we're kind of flipping. Now we're talking about this a lot, where they're at in terms of the future. So pretty interesting. Next, from Bruh Moment, Jeremy Chinn unanimously wins Defensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. He said, I think he means rookie. We're going to go a rookie here. He's not going to win Defensive Player of the Year, but I think he meant rookie. So that's what we're going to go with. I think it's an overreaction. He's definitely there. I'm not predicting by saying overreaction. He's definitely there. He's a strong candidate, has had a really good year. I think such an important piece of the Panthers defense because he plays all over the place, obviously. Linebacker, safety, see him blitzing, see him covering. Just a huge piece of that defense. 2 touchdowns, back-to-back plays against the Vikings, some big-time plays for him. The second one was a little more impressive on his part. Went in there, took the ball, took it for 6. And he's had great plays all year. I just think it's a little closer than, if you were to make this statement. I think if you're out there and you're making this statement, I think it's a little closer than you think. Chase Young's heating up, getting real good as expected. Antoine Winfield's had a fantastic year. Julian Blackmon of the Colts has had a fantastic year. Chinn might be taking over the defensive, if we're talking just defensive guys, which we are here. He might be taking over that spot. He might be the favorite. I just don't know if it's, I think unanimously, I'm thinking clear cut, no question. I don't know if we're there, but maybe we're heading there. Maybe we're definitely heading there. Next, from J&C, Taysom Hill is not the future of the Saints. He can run, but we've seen that doesn't last long anymore in the NFL. He can't throw or sense a pocket collapsing. So he's not the best pocket presence is what he's getting after here. Yeah, another one I'm actually going to call fact. I've kind of said this for some time. I never really changed my evaluation on players. It's something I've never really. I mean, obviously you could adjust it. Something I've never really done because players don't change a whole bunch. It's a heck of a football player. I hated that people kind of ripped him getting that contract. He's a key piece of that team. Heck of a football player. I mean, he's winning right now. He's doing a lot with his legs. He's made some throws. I just don't know. I do know. I don't think he's the. If he has to be, then he has to be. It's not the worst scenario because again, they're winning. They're winning with him right now. Need to see a little more, but if he has to be because the Colts cap or the Saints cap situation, then that makes sense. But I don't think he's the guy. Like they're done looking because he's the guy. He's the future. I think you can find better at quarterback position. But he's a damn good runner. He's a damn good football player. But as an actual passer, you can definitely find better. Don't think he's the answer. So definitely got to agree with that. Next, Lamp. The Bucs are the most complete team, but coaching and Brady are holding them back. Coaching and Brady holding them back. This is a big reason I was high on the Bucs, and I still think they can make some noise, but obviously calming down on them a little bit. But a big reason I was kind of high on the Bucs, a lot of us I think, is because how complete of a team they are. It really wasn't Brady getting in there that obviously helps, but how complete on both sides of the ball they are. So I do think they're up there for the most. I don't know if there's that too many extremely complete teams. There's some really good teams, better teams than the Bucs, but in terms of complete, in terms of the roster. The Bucs are definitely up there, and it's crazy that I don't know if I want to call this. Still trying to decide what I want to call this here. I'm actually another fact. Usually we have a bunch of overreaction. I'm going to call it fact for now. It's a fact just based on what we've seen so far, because there's really no one else to blame but coaching and Brady here on why they aren't playing up to being the most complete team. We see Brady turning the ball over, doing things that he's really hasn't been doing in this whole career, and coaching's been interesting. The Saints blowout game, the game plan was just completely terrible in that game. Brady played bad too, so that kind of goes into both of them. But even earlier in the games, earlier in the year, they were winning games off defense. Todd Bowles was doing a very good job. Now it's a little concerning on how poorly he's game planning for teams. The complete opposite of what you want your game plan to be against the Chiefs, like the worst possible game plan. Talked about it in the recap video. It's been proven you don't run man, especially with no safety help in the back end against the Chiefs. And I do make it not really an exception, but I will say if you want to start off in zone and you want to try to throw them off throughout the game and just throw some man coverages, make them think you're in zone, that would be the only thing that makes sense. But starting the game in man coverage, it's pretty easy to realize somebody's in man coverage. You can figure that out pretty damn quick. And then letting Mahomes and Tyreek Hill torch you, just not smart, and the lack of press coverage too in most games. And now you're gonna run more man than you. It's one thing if you're like strictly a man team, but now you're gonna do it more when you weren't. It makes a lot of it's just like backwards. So coaching is actually a major problem right now. It's a staff that I want to trust though. So it's an interesting situation. Brady, same thing. It's a guy that I want to trust, but we're starting to lose some trust in that. Going forward, I can see this getting cleaned up. I can see them starting to pick it up at some point. At least I think. So I'm not saying this is a fact going forward. I just based on what we've seen so far in a little bit of a disappointing season. They're still a winning team and they're still in the playoffs as of now. But just based on what we've seen so far, I think it's a fact. Patrick Dibbets, the Giants have a top 10 defense. This is interesting too. Think about calling it a fact. I'm going to call it fair because it's definitely debatable. On paper, it doesn't really look like it. But the Giants have played like a top 10 defense. We can sit here and list all the defenses that should be talked about in the top 10. You probably come up with more than 10. I think they're one of those teams. They've been playing really good, really tight in coverage. Its secondary has been impressive this year. Brill Pepper's been looking good. Logan Ryan's been extremely impressive playing slot, playing safety. James Bradbury's been locked down. These guys look really good. And then the defensive front we knew was good. Mainly the actual defensive line, the three-man front, really good. pass rushers were their weak, but they got some guys stepping up there. So they look good, and they've slowed some good offenses down. And then factor in how many times they're kind of thrown on the field because the offense either turns the ball over or they kind of get quiet sometimes. And you realize they have a tougher task than some of those other top 10 defenses. Maybe not all of them, but most of them. So I think that factors in too. That if they had a better offense, they would probably be a lot better. So given what they've done, yeah, I call this fair. I think it's debatable. I think you can think this and it's okay. The Falcons, this is from Jermaine Lindo. The Falcons have a top 5 defense when healthy. Pretty interesting because it's coming right off this Raiders game where the Falcons didn't really do much of anything on offense and they still won. What was it, 43-6? It's because of that defensive performance. I still can't get over how good that might have been the defensive performance on the season. That it was the best one on the season, perhaps. The Atlanta Falcons did that. They made that happen against the Raiders. Ridiculous. Never could have predicted that. And it's been, since Quinn's been gone, which is crazy because he's known for his defense. I think earlier in the year, somewhere around the Minnesota game, I keep talking about their defense has really gotten going. Was that the first game without Quinn too? I think so. They've been playing good. They haven't played that the way they did last week. That was the topper. That's at the top of the list there. But they've played some good games and they've won their team some games. This is a really tough one. I'm still going to call this, I almost hate to do it. I'm going to call it an overreaction because we still need to see more from this team, this defense. But I hate to do it because that was an elite performance yesterday against the Raiders, and they've had some pretty good performance. Top five's next level, though. I mean, we probably can name top five top ahead, but the Falcons keep playing like that. They got the Saints again this week. Man, they're looking good right now. But top 5, I think it's a little overreaction to say that right now. But I can't credit them enough for that performance. That was insane. 49er faithful. Deebo Samuel's not a better overall player than Kittle, but makes more of an impact. This is an interesting one to think about, too. Deebo Samuel felt like, the defense as well, but in terms of who you can pick out on offense, felt like, Nick Mullins had a pretty good game. But Deebo Samuel really was the factor, the impact of that offense. The Rams have arguably a top 3. I think they do have a top 3 defense, maybe the number 2 defense in football. And Deebo Samuel was just a straight problem for them. And you see when he's healthy, when he's in the mix, 49ers, even with all the injuries they have, besides that, they can beat some good teams. Rams were a good team. They were looking like one of the top teams in the NFC going into the week. So this is definitely interesting to think about. I don't even know what I'm going to say for this one. Deebo Samuel is not better overall player than Kittle, but makes more of an impact. I think it's debatable. I think it's fair if you think this. I think most of the world would probably call this crazy. I really do. They'd probably think you're crazy. I think it's fair to think this. Just because what Samuel does, he's a receiver and a running back in one. He's part of, obviously, running plays in the backfield, across the field. You can get him in the screen pass game. You can get him your short game, downfield game, everything. Can line up in the slot, outside. You can line him at running back. There might be more to his game than George Kittle. George Kittle's an all-around tight end. Maybe that's a stretch because George Kittle's a top-tier blocker and an all-around tight end, meaning he can, play the receiver aspect of tight end from any spot. And that's all. There's got to be a lot to your game to do that. So that might be a stretch to say that. But, Samuel is a big-time factor for the 49ers. So I do think it's fair. It's a little bold, but it's fair to think that, in my opinion. Nick Bell, Anthony Lynn is the worst coach in the NFL and should have been fired weeks ago. Two-parter. The first one, worst coach in the NFL. Because you got Gase out there, that's tough, though. It's pretty bad that Lynn's is at Gase level. I'm still going to say Gase. That doesn't mean I'm taking that off the board. This is a tough one. Worst coach in the NFL. Scratch that. I think it's fair to think that. Because you look at what Gase has on his team, what he has to work with, and you look at what Anthony Lynn has. Anthony Lynn was in the driver's seat to win a bunch of games, to compete in a bunch of games, and he kind of took it away. So it's debatable. I'm going to go Gase based on more of his track record. and making teams worse even now. But I think it's fair to think this because of the reasons I explained. I can debate, even though I have an opinion on it, of the answer, you can actually debate both sides. It really depends on, even I guess with Gase too. Are they I've never thought this in NFL history. I always thought the tank was kind of a joke, part of football. I thought it was always a basketball thing. This year is the first year I've actually thought this, and actually on multiple occasions I kind of wonder in my head, was that play or was that sequence, was that on purpose? Because it's that bad. I would hope a lot of these sequences, these moments, we did it with, the Jets with several times with the Patriots, though, defensively, actually, at the end of that game. But, at the end of the Bills game, they were down 10. That's why I don't think it was on purpose. They were down 10. But, running the ball and then doing a QB sneak while the offensive line is set to go in pass protection, it's beyond stupid. I mean, we got people in high school that know football that would know better than that, even probably younger than that. It's ridiculous. So, debatable. Should have been fired weeks ago. I'm actually not going to say fact on this one. I think I've talked about this in the past. Should have been fired weeks ago. I think it's fair to think that it's okay based on what he's done on the field. He deserves to get fired. That's a fact. Deserves to get fired. Fact. But should have, I think, is different because I talked about this before. Herbert's actually playing better than expected. He's rolling. I think if you take out Anthony Lynn, there's somebody that's already in that staff that's going to take over. For me, I only think it can make things worse. It'd probably keep things the same, but there's no chance of making it better. Kind of just throwing off the rookie, changing coaches, but it's pretty much the same philosophy out there. So I only think, it's only possible that negative or the same could happen. So kind of can understand it. Just get through the damn season, and then you must make the move then. So we're going fair for both. Had a little bit of a change of heart there on that one. Raider Nation, the Raiders are no longer playoff contenders. It's an overreaction. They got destroyed by the Falcons. Falcons' defense was ridiculous. The Raiders' offense was off their game. Bad game. I actually may be way lower on the Raiders now. I may have less. I should say this. I may have less trust in them in the playoffs, in the big games. Winning more than one playoff game, I definitely have less trust in them. I guess staying consistent. But to say they're no longer playoff contenders, I think would be an overreaction. Just one game. That doesn't mean I think they make the playoffs. That doesn't mean I think they're a lock. There's a lot of good AFC teams. They're actually in the hunt right now, and I believe they're behind the Ravens, actually, and the Patriots are right behind them, who actually beat the Raiders. And then there's quite a few, seven good teams in the AFC's good. AFC's good. So this, I think it's an overreaction to think they're no longer playoff contenders, but it's not definitely nowhere near a lock to them making it. And I have gone a little cold on them in the idea of maybe winning multiple playoff games. So definitely need a bounce back game from the Raiders. Just starting to get high on them too, unfortunate. Logan, Antonio Gibson is a top 10 running back. Fresh off a dominant Cowboys performance. It is the Cowboys, so there's a way we could be overreacting this a little bit. I'm going to say fair. I think it's fair to think this, though. Because there's not that many great running backs, mainly because where the league's heading. Teams don't value them a whole bunch. But you look at, again, where the league's heading and what Antonio Gibson has to his game. He has everything to his game. He can run. I mean, he can hit any hole. He's got speed. He's got the power, that's for sure, breaking tackles. Can catch the ball out of the backfield, downfield. We see him do that. Every time there's short yards, they give him the ball. Seems like he fights for that extra yards. We see that power. There's not too many running backs in NFL history that have all of that put into one, and he's barely been at the position. He's just a rookie. I think he's special. I think he's very special. Debatable if he's top 10 right now, but again, I guess it depends if we're talking about on the year or in general. But in general, that would mean, I guess, kind of going forward plays a factor in that, and I think he's only going to get better going forward. I'm going to say it's fair. I'm pretty much on board thinking that. I'm very high on Antonio Gibson. Again, there's not a long list of great running backs. I know some are hurt right now, but just a total package guy, extremely impressive. So we're going to say it's definitely a borderline debatable thing, but interesting to think about. Justin Roby, Jamal Williams has shown the Packers that they don't need Aaron Jones and they aren't going to re-sign him. Let's stick to the first part here. Jamal Williams has shown the Packers that they don't need Aaron Jones. I'm I'm a big Jamal Williams guy. I think could be one of the better backups in football. One of the best duos here because of that. He's more than a backup though. I hate the backup label because he starts when he needs to. He can start. He's very good. So I like Jamal Williams. I was high on him out of BYU. I was very high on Aaron Jones out of UTEP too. That was a heck of a draft there for running backs. I remember there's quite a few of them that I'm happy with their play so far. I'm gonna say overreaction though. Aaron Jones is better. He's much better. Aaron Jones is one of the better backs in football, I think, right now. He's adding kind of the receiving ability to his game, getting better at it, I should say. The Packers are going to be good without Aaron Jones and then with Jamal Williams. So you could say that. Maybe it's not worth paying him. But I just think, look at it last year, too. They couldn't get a whole bunch going to the passing game, and Aaron Jones really, I thought, was the big boost to that offense. So I think it's weird saying they need Aaron Jones. Like, they absolutely need him. I don't know if I don't know if I want to put it like that, but I don't think, and Jamal Williams has played well, but I think it's more of what Aaron Jones has showed us says that they should definitely want Aaron Jones back. And even though Jamal Williams is good, they if they have the option to keep Aaron Jones, you got to keep it. I can't, prediction. This would be a prediction. They aren't going to re-sign him. I think that'd be an overreaction. I think they want to resign him. They just drafted A.J. Dillon. I did not like that pick. I had a much higher grade on Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones when they were prospects than A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon drafted rounds before them. So I wasn't a big fan of that. I mean, he's a strong dude with freaky athleticism for that size, so he's definitely got potential. But maybe my point is maybe they think Williams and A.J. Dillon will be the 1-2 guys, and then they don't want to re-sign Aaron Jones. So we're gonna have to wait and see on that. But I think Aaron Jones is their lead back. I think he's actually one of the better backs in football. So I think they should feel they need him, even though I can't really put it like they need him or they're in trouble. I'm not gonna put it like that, but I think you get my point. From Sheep, the Bills proved why they are still a top 5 defense yesterday after struggling early in the year. So, yeah, going in the year, a lot of us predicted them to be a top 5 defense. I almost thought better than that. And then they were pretty bad to start the year. Nowhere near the worst in the league, but they were not good. They were under, below average, I thought, or maybe somewhere around average at best. Probably around there because there's some really bad defense in the NFL. But and there's some really good offenses, so that sure doesn't help. But yeah, and now all of a sudden, the last several weeks, they've been playing a lot better. They did give up quite a few points to the Cardinals. They gave a Hail Mary in that one. They gave a Hail Mary in this one too. But I've been thinking this too. I've been thinking that they're getting a lot better. This is kind of the Bills' defense that I thought. They're getting more pressure. The linebackers, including A.J. Klein's been playing out of his mind. They're playing better. Tre'Davious White looks much better. He's always been good, but hasn't really playing to that great standard early in the year. Now he's back there a little bit. Safeties started off slow. They're playing a lot better. Jordan Poyer's playing a lot better. Playing way better than he did in an earlier year. So I'm gonna say it's fair to think this. I'm not gonna go all in on fact because it hasn't been a giant sample size, I guess, of games where they play like a top 5 defense. Because remember they had the moments in the Cardinals game. They still gave up quite a few points, but they've been much more impressive. In a game like the Chargers, who aren't the best team, but they're gonna score on you. That's a team that can score on you. And they clutched up. The defense put some pretty bad situations at times, and they clutched up. So I think they're on their way to this. Maybe that's the fair statement there. We'll see though. I'm excited to see what they got if they can continue to improve, because that could be the difference in the playoffs too. From Danny, Cardinals are too inconsistent to win and are at least 2 to 3 years away from being a Super Bowl contenders. Yeah, I don't know what he means by win. I'm definitely somewhere in the playoffs. Win. Maybe get to the Super Bowl because he's talking about the Super Bowl. All right, so it's two-parter. And we're kind of going to edit this a little bit because this is definitely a hot topic here with the Cardinals, fresh off a couple losses in a row here. Disappointing one against the Patriots. They're too inconsistent to win now. We'll say, win a championship. We'll even say win the NFC Championship. I'm going to say that's a fact. Way too inconsistent. Pretty much everywhere. Pretty much, I like their offense. I like their defense at times. I like Cliff Kingsbury at times, but they're all of it. I love Kyler Murray. Love him. But they're all too inconsistent. Maybe they're too young. They're too fresh. They're too new. So to contend for any type of title, They're too inconsistent right now. Yes, fact. And then the second part, are at least 2-3 years away from being serious Super Bowl contenders. I don't know. I don't know if there's a correct answer for this. I guess overreaction is what I got to go with. I think this could end up being, because I mean, how many Super Bowl contenders are in a season? I guess it depends on the person. Me, I can count on one hand for me. Every year, everybody else, whether it's people on TV, writing articles, or just fans, they're going to put up 10 teams. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to be as realistic I can be. So I guess it depends on the person. So this is debatable. 2-3 years, you could be right. You could be, they may not be, because there's only a handful of teams that can be Super Bowl contenders. But the point here is that they got a ways to go, I think, and I think that's the overreaction. The inconsistency will always be a concern in the back of my mind. Next year, the year after, it will always be there. It will always be a concern with this team. But we're going to feel more and more comfortable about that, especially while they're building up the team. They're going to get Chandler Jones back. They're going to build more to the team. They're doing a pretty good job adding talent here and there, for the most part, here rather than there, if that makes any sense. I don't know. My point is, I think it's an overreaction to say 2 to 3 years. I think they can become a Super Bowl contender in just an off season or two, we'll say. That would be 2 or 3 years, I guess. So it's just a very interesting one to think about. But I do think they're too inconsistent right now. They're very hard to trust. And that goes into the next one, kind of, from Jordan. Cliff Kingsbury's play calling is so bad and has cost the Cardinals so many games that he needs to be on the hot seat. This is an interesting one as well, because it's been pretty bad. I kind of gave him some ripping this year, at times. Even in wins, I kind of go back to the first Seahawks game. To start that game, it was just the play calling was bad, and it was so hard for him just to get, Kyler Murray to run outside, to get the high tempo going, to get Chase Edmonds the ball because he was working better than Drake. Things like that. It was tough. They went away from Kyler Murray running, outside. He kind of insists on the Kyler Murray inside runs first to that. But Panthers-Lions games, I think he cost them not running the ball enough, mainly to Kyler Murray. I think he kind of goes away from what should work. I think he outsmarts himself sometimes. And we see this last week. Yeah, I think he didn't really do it enough in terms of the Kyler Murray runs again. He called that timeout. He's pretty bad with timeouts too throughout the year, but this one in the Patriots game was pretty bad to kind of cost him the game. I definitely think he outsmarts himself. He thinks too much. Thinks, well, they're going to be ready for this. It might be too, and I think number one rule is be unpredictable, but there's a point where if you're just going against what's working and going to something that hasn't been working, and that's what he's doing, where I think that's wrong. So I have not been happy with him, but he's not the only person to blame. For an example, the Patriots game, I thought Kyler Murray played probably his worst game of maybe his career, but the year. Offensive line didn't play good. Defense gave up that 3rd and 13. You can't give up that 3rd and 13, but that's one play. They kind of got stopped in the goal line there, but there was a collection of things for some of the losses. But needs to be on the hot seat. So I think he's cost them. He's done some bad things. This is an interesting one. Here's the problem. We're going to call it an overreaction. I really don't know what to put up for this one because he's almost deserving to be on the hot seat. We'll say that. It kind of goes similar to the Anthony Lynn situation, but not really, because Anthony Lynn's gone after this year. Kingsbury's not going to be, and one's way better than the other. But he deserves to be on the hot seat, because he's cost him some games. He's thinking too much. He's outsmarting himself. He's hurt the team. But so he deserves it a little bit. He deserves to feel that pressure. But does he need to be on the hot seat? Here's the problem. Here's the problem that the Cardinals actually have here. This is actually a major problem. Somewhat of a major problem. Cardinals got a pretty unique system. It's a college system, spread offense, air raid for the most part. See why they don't use the tight end a whole bunch. How many receivers are out there? More than any other team. They use more receivers than any other team. They probably don't do it as much as they did last year. They're using the running back quite a bit more too. But it's a specific system, and that's a big reason why Kyler Murray was the first pick. He was definitely the best quarterback in that draft, as we can see now. But if we go back to before that draft, going into the draft, Kyler Murray was not going to be the first pick if any other team had the first pick. He was not going to be. I still think the Giants would have taken Daniel Jones over him. I think Washington would have taken, I think, Dwayne Haskins over him. It was a system thing. A lot of people didn't. I mean, the height thing, which is overrated. But point is, Murray fits that specific system, Kingsbury system. Who else is going to run that system? There's plenty of guys that can run that system, but are they better than Kingsbury? Kingsbury brought the system. He is deserving credit for this system, for getting the right pieces to make this work, to throw other teams off, to be that sneaky team that can upset really good teams, to be a problem, a pain in the ass for those teams. It's Kingsbury's system, along with the talent, Kyler Murray. But yeah, you're gonna have to pluck a guy out of college again. And is he gonna be any better than Kingsbury? And they're going to have to develop the chemistry. I mean, if you can go get a Lincoln Riley, then we're all going to be pretty confident that he should eventually at least be better than Kingsbury. But he's kind of declined those situations in the past. Would he do this for Kyler Murray? Maybe. But my point is, it's going to be very hard to find a replacement that is a sure thing, because they're going to have to be sure about it to just make this move. They're just starting to develop chemistry. Yeah, because they need a specific system. They need a specific system for their quarterback, for this team. So that's why it's actually, I don't know if I view it as a problem. It could be a problem. It's an interesting, unique situation in Arizona. But I am calling this an overreaction because it's too early, and because who else are you going to get? Again, because you need like a specific type of guy. So that's definitely an interesting one that, as you can tell, I can go on all day about it. But yeah, this was a good episode. A lot of good talking points this week. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. You can play along on Twitter. You can keep up with our constant content on Twitter. And during live games, we're constantly talking. So go ahead and follow that. Smash that like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe, turn notifications on so you don't miss a thing. Full NFL coverage here all year long on the Goat House. Appreciate everyone for their support. Thank you for watching this video. That's going to do it. Goodbye.